What came first for you, board games or war games?
Board games.
As far as a gamer goes, what kind of ratio is there with you personally, board games to war games, if you had to give a 10-point scale?
Well, I do a lot more board games than I do war games, but it really has blurred the lines over the years because my favorite games are like Kingmaker, which is considered kind of a diplomacy slash war game. Kind of. I guess it's considered a war game, but not necessarily a true war game like a Russian campaign or something like that.
Right.
My very first game I ever played that was a war game was a Russian campaign.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first war game. And since I invented a game called Julius Caesar, which is a two-person war game, I guess that would be, the genre I'm currently working towards. Actually, I have another game coming out based on that same genre. So I guess now I'm kind of doing more of that. But the other game I'm going to play at this convention is Atlantic Storm, which is a card game about World War II, but it's basically it's not a war game, I guess, per se, but it's more of a card game. So it's got the genres have blended, and I play mostly in things like Ticket to Ride. I consider myself a generalist. There's pretty much no game I wouldn't enjoy trying. So I've did role playing for a long time. I cut my teeth on Risk and Axis and Allies when I was a kid. Those kind of things.
How many years have you been playing now then?
Since I was about 10.
What drew you towards the Columbia Games style of games?
Grant and I became friends about 15 years ago, and I needed someone to handle my website. And I heard through the grapevine that he had some skills in that area, and he stepped up, and we became friends. And when Rome, the TV series on HBO, came out, I said this would make an excellent game, and so we started working towards creating Julius Caesar.
Okay.
And so we became, so he's a partner here at this convention, and he's also my co-creator for Julius Caesar.
Okay, so it was the Rome TV show that brought about the passion to make the game.
Right.
Did you have to do any research before that? I mean, did you already have a lot of knowledge in Rome, or was it all new research to make the game?
So I ended up buying a lot of books, Julius Caesar's memoirs, and all these different things I read. I probably read about 50 or 60 books on Rome and history.
Wow.
To get the knowledge to be able to create a board game, because you can't. Interesting thing about a board game is you can interpret it many different ways, but you have to get certain things correct.
Right.
And when you do a board game, and so you also need to know and have the feel of how it's supposed to feel. I mean, what did Julius Caesar think when he crossed the Rubicon? Those kind of things. And why was there a war between Mark Antony and Octavian, and where that led to, and why all this. So, and the original game for Julius Caesar was we did half the war, Julius Caesar versus Pompey. They were reset, and then we did Mark Antony versus Octavian, all in the same game.
Oh, okay.
Original game was you did both halves of the war at the same time, but we broke it up into two so that we would be able to possibly later on have a second game come out on the second half of the war. Plus, the second half of the war is more complicated because it has so many more variables.
What was your biggest design challenge for Julius Caesar? Game design challenge.
Well, originally the game was based off of the model of War of 1812, which was more of a lot of dice, and you had, the map was much smaller. But by the time I got through the process of going through Tom Douglas, who's the owner of Columbia, and those kinds of things, we ended up turning it into more of a hammer game, which is the ABC battle system. And it was a good thing we did that, because the game was a little too simple. It needed to have a little more depth to it. Yeah. And by the time it was all done, it's been a fantastic game.
What was the biggest general challenge for Julius Caesar other than design?
Well, I'd say probably getting the map the way I wanted it. We ended up having different ideas and designs on the map to determine what the best places were for victory points and these types of things. And it took a long time to get it all figured out. The idea was I wanted the game to be replayable over and over and over, so it would be different every time. I didn't want a game just to be the same every time. A lot of games you have to play exactly the same way, make one single variance, and you can't win.
Right.
And they didn't want that. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, making the map and everything like that.
Length of design from pen to paper to the rules being what you would consider done. How long did that take?
About 4 years. Example right now, I have a Civil War game in my mind, right? But it's only here. I mean, I have, with the Julius Caesar system, I have a road system, combat system, ship moving system. I have all of these systems that are all in place that I will use on the new Civil War game that are all kind of in place. So to add to that is about play testing and design of how the game will flow. But the fact is that I have it right here for a beautiful Civil War game that I want to do, which I think will be just as big, if not bigger, than Julius Caesar. But one of the things about gaming, and especially design of games, is you can have lots of ideas. It takes a lot. It's a lot harder to actually make it actually a game. So if you talk to Grant or any of the people over at Columbia, they say they get ideas galore. Making them into a game is a different thing, different story altogether.
What's your favorite Columbia Games game outside of Julius Caesar?
War of 1812. It was my first game that was introduced to me, and I just loved it from the beginning. It's a well-balanced game. You can play either side and win, which to me is important. The game is always different, never the same. It's a whole theater type of a game, which means you're not just fighting a battle, you're fighting a war. So you got it way over here is Detroit, and way over here, and you got all this stuff in between, and you got ways to come up this way and ways to come down that way, and things are always different. So the game's never the same. So I like games with variety. So if you ever see a game I create, it's going to have a lot of variety.
When Justin's not playing a war game, what kind of game does he play? Is there a specific genre? I know you said you like all games, but is there one that you're cracking open more than not?
So far, I played a game of Kingmaker, which is an older game, which I've always enjoyed. I've played some Julius Caesar, a couple of games of that, and a Ticket to Ride game, and a few other things, Titan game maybe. And I've tried to play the ones I can play here. But one of my favorite games of all time is Titan. It came out in the '80s, and it was just a great, fun game. I used to be pretty good at it. But Titan is one of those games where if you don't play it much, your skills degrade.
Well, what was the initial vision of PresCon? Was it board games, or was it war games, or did it evolve from one to the other?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, the original PresCon was role-playing, card game, miniature, board game convention. We had this grandiose design that we were going to make it massive. Long time ago, 25 years ago, there was a hotel called the Best Western Mount Vernon, which was where we did our wargaming and our dealer's room. And then up the street, there was another hotel, which we rented, and we were going to do role-playing in these two different hotels. We did, the first year we had 5 inches of solid ice on the Thursday night of the convention. No one could move, only people, there was 110 people who showed up. 10 people up here at this hotel for role-playing, 100 people down here at this hotel, including the dealers, for board games. So 365 days a year, 365 days from that date, we no longer had any role-playing, we just did board games. Now, we also did card games like Magic the Gathering and things like that, but we didn't do any more role-playing. So from that point forward, we moved towards more traditional type war games, like our board games, like Blackbeard, and we did Diplomacy, and we did Shogun, and we did Risk, and Axis and Allies, and Titan the Arena, those kind of games. We moved towards playing those games, and we also did a lot of Magic. The second year we were in existence, we had 205 people show up at the con, 105 of them were Magic players.
Wow. When did the wargaming start getting in there?
Well, we didn't really do wargaming too much until we got over here to this hotel about 3 or 4 years later. We had a lot more space. So we went to the wargamers and said, hey, we got plenty of room. Come on.
Okay.
And it worked. There's a lot of wargamers. A lot of these guys come here. We got a group sitting out in the hall. Out here on Monday. They'll be here through Sunday, and they're playing one game.
Yeah.
because they can't get together anywhere else and have that long of a space together to be able to set up a big, giant, massive game and play. So as long as they want to sit out there and do that, as long as I can get the guys who want to come and run some of these classic war games and stuff, we'll always have it here.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I was going to ask, what the future's in for Justin here, but it looks like it's going to be next Julius Caesar expansion and some Civil War stuff.
Yeah, that's the plan. That is the plan.
Well, thank you very much, Justin. I do appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thank you.